We're not really late, I promise. Hi! It's 4:04. Stream not found. It's fine. It's fine.
I mean, it's fine. We round time, right?
Depending on which NTP server you ask, it's either 404, 402, or 403.
Pool.ntp.org is my go-to. With that many computers, how could it be wrong? And hey, Rube. Hey, Cuddles. So nice to see you. Hey, Board. I love the lines of dancing kitties in the stream. It's wonderful. And there's a whole bunch of dab-a-doos there, so, I haven't done that yet. I woke up at like 3:15 or so. I've been awake for a long time. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day, wherever you are. The time zones are amazing. We hope you're all having a fantastic day, night, whatever. And we hope you come and join us for our favorite thing to do. Making games.
No, I was going to say, are we playing Insurgency again?
No, that's our favorite thing to do when our brain isn't working. This is our favorite thing to do when our brain is working. So let's play Insurgency. Oh, we're all brain dead. But we do know we have to look at health next. I believe that's where we've left off. I think.
Yeah, we did quite a bit of work previously on setting up our magic system, making sure that that's going to work, that it's balanceable, setting up some restrictions around it.
Pretty happy with what came out of it.
Yeah, and we've got our physical combat sorted out. So I think it's time to figure out health, and then we can start working on like getting closer to character creation. Oh,
we're almost at playable. That's fucking hype. It hasn't really been that long. Like, it's been a long time because we do it once a week, at most. But when you condense it all down together, it's like 10 or 12 sessions of 2 hours.
Yeah, I think it's probably been more than that. It's probably like 20 sessions, but still, like 40 hours of work is not that much.
So, fun fact for everyone. GamesByDesign.ca is live. And thank you so much, Mr. Mole, for being an amazing web host and webmaster and putting all this together and managing it all. But we do have a studio link up here, and there are 7 parts live so far, and I don't think there's too many more to come after that. Like, it's not actually as many as you think.
It feels like more.
It does. But we've actually really pounded out this system. It's really impressive. I'm impressed at how fast we've worked. Let's continue, but first let's do news. Before we get going too much, I've got coffee here. What's there in news? Bethesda confirmed Steam migration date. As announced in February, the Bethesda game launcher is being retired, and users will be able to migrate their library and wallet to Steam.
Which is kind of a shame, because I've bought Doom Eternal twice. But whatever.
You know what happens there. You can argue to get them like a gift link.
Yeah, or a refund.
Inventory one.
But a gift link would be ideal. A gift link would be great, and then we could give it to somebody like, play Doom Eternal!
You play Doom.
Doom someone.
Excuse me, sir. Go to hell.
Mars.
Hell eventually.
I guess Doom Eternal, none of it actually takes place on Mars, does it?
I don't
It's
remember.
all Earth.
Earth and hell, yeah. You do go to hell.
You also go to heaven.
Chrono Cross came out. A bunch of people have been playing it. I didn't pay any attention to it. I have no idea if it's good or not. Oh, XCOM 2 is free right now. That's fucking hype news. Go get XCOM 2 on the Unrealist store. That's
UE5 is big news.
Yeah, UE5 is out. That's big news. Big news is Rage and I both bought a UE5 course to catch up to Pseudo.
We gonna learn?
It's a good course. I have some of those ones already, and I've taken them. They're real good.
That's awesome. With pleasure, right? XCOM 2 free? Okay. It's a wonderful game. But, yeah. yeah, that course has been pretty good so far. I've been going through it. I'm not following along with the blueprint part. I'm just going through the blueprint part to freshen up because I've done blueprint games in a UE4 before. But yeah, it's
thankfully
really
a lot
good.
of it's backwards compatible.
Yeah,
And
it's not a lot different from what I've been watching, and then I'll just freshen up on the C++ side and start pounding out some POCs again. I've got a couple of interesting ideas. Maybe we'll even come help Pseudo at times. I'm sure there's more than enough work going on with Egg and Pseudo to spread some out.
We are biting off a lot more than we can chew.
That's okay. You know, you start with a project that's a little bit more than you can chew, and you just do your best on it. And because it starts to look cool, because it's more than most people expect, you'll attract more people. I'm sure. I'm sure there will be more people.
All I'm aiming for and want is I just want guns that feel like Insurgency and sound that sounds like Insurgency, and then I'm happy. I want to just see if I can get anything close to their quality, and then if rest of the mechanics, whatever.
If you've got guns that feel like Insurgency and sound that sounds like Insurgency, I want my name on that game. That's a hell of a game. Fuck the rest of the mechanics. Wow, this gun feels great. Let's play this.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about Insurgency's map design and Tarkov's map design. I've got some ideas.
Dude,
Nice.
that's another thing is like Insurgency's map design is like fantastic. There's so many times where I'm in a building and like it feels, even just like what window placements are, street placements, you know, where debris stuff is, and like there's a lot of stuff that it's just like staged well. And I'm like, this is, you can tell these guys definitely come from the making FPS maps for a long time.
You know who is a great reference point on your interior design and stuff? Pookie. She's actually phenomenal at it.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be good.
Plotting out flows through the building and stuff like that. Like for her, it's always like her initial schooling is, you know, bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, understanding flow patterns, how often people have to go to different rooms in order to lay them out optimally for flow and stuff like this. So if you're coming to her and saying, I want high action here, and high action here to push people into those places, she can help you like with the layout of the room that will naturally flow to those places. I'm sure
it's also just difficult to just furnish places so they look realistic, especially from like engineers, right? Everything tends to be very engineered. Anyone who's played The Sims knows this too, right? Like you see all these sim houses that look all neat and cool, then you go and get your own, you're like, wow, I just put all the practical stuff down, but there's no flourish, there's no, you know, pizzazz or, you know, polish to it. It's like trying to go from like a gray boxing level to like actually having it look like a level is quite difficult. And that's something you can see from like, even when you go inside the houses in Insurgency, there's a lot of stuff inside and a lot of things placed, and there's like the rooms have purpose. And you play games like other FPS games, or, you know, I think the one that comes to my head is like PUBG. You go into them, the houses just kind of feel like shells. Mm-hmm. They're just rooms that you kind of go into without much, you know, personality in them, and it really kind of helps sell that immersion.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, really, if you think about it, what's our favorite thing to do once we get to the point in Insurgency?
You gotta shoot the TV.
You gotta shoot all the stuff in the building. Yeah. Pot!
The fruit.
Shoot the vases! Blow up the watermelons! Oh, the fucking microwave exploded!
You get some freedom, and you get some freedom.
Yeah, that level design aspect is definitely a huge part of it. Huge part of it. Good news? Oh yeah, I posted that one. That one's fucking great. The an NFT of Jack Dorsey's first tweet that was bought for 48 million was put on, was bought for 2.9 million, was put up for 48 million, and got an offer of $297, $280. Yeah.
Oof.
I was like, yes, happen. Take that, NFTs. Needless to say, the guy didn't sell it in that auction. He's like, I'm just going to hold on to that one. That's not what I wanted. So NFTs are dying already. BattleBit's old news. That's been in there for a while. Rage, you dropped something about the 5800X3D.
Yeah, the 5800X3D has officially launched. The reviews are out. And for half the price of a Intel 12900KS, you can beat it in quite a few video games.
Yeah.
and not by a small margin either.
And Man, it's been a rough year for random news, apparently, as Natural Born Griller pointed out. The whole channel is just a long series of months and months of good people passing.
It's very unfortunate.
Last one was Gilbert Gottfried that was posted, and that was sad. We
So
all love
sad.
Gilbert
Unexpected.
Gottfried. Yeah, totally unexpected. I mean, Iago the parrot is gone. What?
Yeah.
No. Okay, happier stuff now. I think we're through that. My dab rig's all warmed up. It's almost 4:20, and we're here. Before we
Also,
get...
just
Go ahead.
as an additional technology note, the QD OLED panels are starting to be a thing, and their color is incredible. So, fingers crossed, they're actually good.
Wow, that color is incredible, and this 48 millisecond gray to gray is totally unacceptable.
Well, I mean, it's an OLED. They're
I know it's gonna be quick.
generally less than a millisecond.
I know
but
it's going to be quick. Quick on that front. I'm just making a point. There's more stats than color to a monitor, and you can make them trash pretty quick.
Yeah, especially if they get all smeary. But that's the nice thing about OLED. They don't. The downside is they're still very dim. Still very dim, even with the new white emitting, or not white emitting, blue emitting OLED panel behind the quantum dot array.
The burning's supposed to be getting better too, right? With that?
Yes. Yes.
Blue emitting?
Because they have to output so much less light and generate so much less heat, you're significantly less likely to get stuck pixels or anything like that, and less image ghosting, which means that they're actually comfortable putting it in gaming monitors now. And you don't necessarily have to, hide your UI, hide your taskbar, move your browser windows around, run all these tools to stop image retention. So, fingers crossed, that technology will actually be reasonable and attainable for reasonable people.
We already determined maximum health. We
did?
Yeah, we talked about it, and I totally forgot about that, and it's all written down here, and it all came back to me, and everybody has 20 health, and you go down to -10 before you die.
Yep.
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 And
Way to go past us.
Yeah, good job, us.
All right, good panel. See everybody.
Yep. So
did
until
it.
next
Bye.
week.
Hey, you guys want to play some Insurgency?
Kind of, yeah, actually.
You know I always do. I was playing it earlier, actually. I was having a good time. I find that when I'm not playing with you guys, I get over 100 kills. And then when I do play with you guys, it evens out, which is actually really nice to see.
That means I'm not
with pseudo.
That means I'm not trash. You have no idea how happy I am to realize I'm not trash at a first-person shooter, because I've never not been trash at a first-person shooter before, and it's amazing. Like Rage
New
was
experience.
It is. Rage was pointing out the other day. I didn't have the chat on, but somebody was coming into the chat going, "How'd you get so good at this game?" Like, really? Me? Really? Yeah.
So even co-op games, like a lot of people I know got good at games doing the competitive stuff, but you can get really good at just playing with people who are good, and then just having that want to keep up with, and then your brain's like, all right, we got to do better. And even if it's a subconscious thing, or time in game, and then just kind of being around that and seeing the techniques they do and stuff like that can really make a big difference.
Can confirm. When I first started playing FPS more seriously was when I met Rage. Honestly, it wasn't that long ago. And we started with Borderlands 3. And he was getting all the kills for the first half of the game. I was just following along as he clears out levels. And after that, I was like, I'm fucking bored. I want to kill things. Started clicking more furiously. Started catching up.
I'm gonna get him.
Alrighty. So we have health, and I like health. Damage is weapon damage plus delta. I think we should look at damage, final damage more closely. Determine damage reduction thoroughly, because damage reduction is going to be more important than health progression with our system, being more Shadowrunny.
Yes. Yes, we did touch on it, which is why the fortitude is included there, because we've got your total damage, which is calculated off of your weapon damage and your delta currently. And then you've got your armor absorption. So that's equipment. We haven't quite settled on any equipment yet. But then you've got the fortitude, reducing physical damage. And the way that we were going to work it with resolve was that resolve would not necessarily change the damage that you were taking to your physical body, but it would make it more difficult for them to damage you using non-physical sources.
What happened to your friend, whipped to the floor with you after hundreds of matches in Tekken 7. Yep.
Good. He practiced. Yeah. He learned.
And that's good for you too, Cuddles, because when you have somebody that can finally beat you, that means you can get better too.
Yeah.
We talked about this a lot in our metas episode, where really, if you want to get better, you need to play in a more evolved meta. That's the only way to improve. You need a better meta. You need people that know what they're doing so that they can push you to get better.
Yeah, that's how I learned Street Fighter. I found somebody who was a competitive player to play with, and then I got my ass handed to me for about 6 months. By the end of it, I was going, maybe 3-4 out of 10 I would win.
Oh no, I've heated up my dab rig, but I forgot to take the carb cap off.
Uh-oh.
If you hear me go, you know what happened. You got good too. We started to notice the flaws in our characters. Excellent. Excellent. Wrong camera. That's camera 1. This is camera 2. I have multiple cameras now. It's fucking confusing. I'm in a broadcast studio here, basically. What the fuck? Okay. So I put one question up that we have to talk about. Do we want variable damage resist?
Define.
Is it a flat armor value and fortitude added together, subtracted from the damage, and that's always? Or is there some variability based on your fortitude where your damage soak could go up and down? Basically, is fortitude a guaranteed absorption, or is it a chance absorption?
I would lean towards fortitude being a guaranteed absorption with potentially skills to augment it.
I do like the idea of a set non-variable fortitude reduction because it allows us to tune damage more reasonably.
And it also gives the player a feel of more power and more agency. You spent points on that point of fortitude, so you should get something out of it.
Yep. The other side of it is, there's always that chance of getting shot with a little gun and hitting the right spot. So do we want to then take that away from the fortitude and have some sort of critical hit mechanic, which we don't have right now because of how things delta. But I guess no, because the damage is going to be variable anyway, and a critical hit is really just a perfect roll on your damage.
Yeah, we discussed that at length when we were doing physical combat, and I'm very happy with how things turned out.
Yep, it's just something we need to re-evaluate every time we touch anything that touches that, right? Just to make sure our minds are still there. Yeah.
Oh, my mind is long gone.
Yeah, that's okay. It was never actually
because I'm almost done school.
Where is my mind? DMCA! Oh no!
Just in time for me to be in between semesters.
Your brain gets to turn off for a while.
I hope. Not really. Actually, it's
it would have if you were making a video game.
1 fort equals 1 damage reduction. That's what we're going to play with for now. Nice, straightforward, simple number. No need for it to be complicated unless we find it needs to be complicated. Yeah.
Yep. Can always tune it if we need to.
So we need to determine damage then.
Yeah, and I think the theory that we were working with previously requires us to work on some equipment in order to get our damage. So we need weapon damage and we need armor absorption.
So I threw up a first question under damage for us to talk about, and we really need to discuss. Shadowrun uses damage codes. which is like a amount of damage based on the value. This way, everything can be kind of samed into categories, right?
Yeah, I'm not against using damage codes. I'm concerned about complexity because everything else has been designed to be very streamlined.
Yep, I agree. It's something that we can look at as a mechanic without using the implementation of the codes by just having tiered damage values that we give to the weapons and making sure nothing goes above or below those values.
So we could have tier 1 through N weapons, and they would have certain damage values that go along with them within that tier, and have certain trade-offs in order to get higher values, sort of thing.
I guess we should... It is a little different than Shadowrun. Shadowrun, again, being the obnoxious, repugnant monster it is, breaks up ranged and melee into different fucking rules for damage. Why, Shadowrun? Why? I want to play you, but I don't want to deal with you.
Such an interesting system with way too many rules.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. We have the flat base damage, so we do want things to scale to a maximum and not alter too much. Let's, what is watt? Yeah, I'm going to leave that watt. Watt is the maximum delta on attack damage. What is minimum damage an attack should cause? Minimum and maximum, and develop our ranges, and we can talk from there.
Yeah. So we have talked a bit about maximum delta before. I believe the result was that it was 35 was the absolute maximum. If you've got two, no, it's less than that. Because if you've got two Grandmasters, that's 6 die each, one rolling all ones, and one rolling all sixes. So that's delta of 5 per die, and there are 6 die. So that's 30 damage for your delta alone.
We only go up to 5. Do you get 6 dice at 5? 1 dice at 0? Is that what it is?
I believe that's what we discussed, yeah.
That's what I remember.
Yeah, right, because you need to have a die when you're at 0. So 30.
Oh, no, it's bigger than that, because you would also get 5 additional damage for... No, yes. 5 additional damage for the skill points itself.
This is just the delta.
Yes.
Oh, I guess that delta adds to it, yeah.
No, the deltas would be equal anyway, so it doesn't actually change, because they're both Grandmasters.
Oh, yeah.
So they would both have +5.
Yep. So that's kind of what we're... So basically when you're getting to skill level 3 in a field is when, if you're doing it perfectly, you could potentially kill someone in one hit or knock them out in one hit. And skill 5 at a perfect maximum roll can actually kill someone from full health to dead in one hit. Just perfectly.
That math worked out really well.
That's kind of crazy. Okay, that works.
Boy, we built a good system.
Oh man, what am I doing? I'm clicking on the fucking OBS window like, why can't I type? The minimum damage an attack should cause 1. Should there be 1 being the minimum possible?
So we
Or
do
0.
have the concept of the defender deltaing the attacker. So how will that work in relation to attacking with a weapon? Because we've got the ability to completely negate an incoming attack by deltaing the opposing player.
Well, how about... Well, by deltaing the opposing... So if you win the delta, you don't get hit.
Yeah, if the defender deltas the attacker, then you wouldn't get hit. But hit points are not actually a representation of health. They are a representation of your stamina in the fight, because realistically, generally, if you get stabbed, you die. So do we want to represent that as the delta takes away the weapons damage? Do we want to represent that as the delta takes away the roll and the weapon damage still happens?
So, yeah, I'm okay with this. So how about, if you have no skills in defense at all, then it's just your delta reduces the damage. And if you manage to fully reduce the damage of the attack coming in, then it bounces off your armor. Is that what we're talking?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it chinks off your armor and causes a little bruise and shit like that.
Or, you have to dodge very abruptly and you pull a muscle or something, and now the next dodge is going to be harder.
And that's why we can go into negative health, because it's more of a stamina unconscious system. And once you're unconscious, then it's Sekiro instant kill if they want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so that's something to keep in mind for designing this, is what metaphor are we using HP for? And I like the metaphor of HP being, essentially a stamina meter. Where this is your ability to fight. When it reaches 0, you can no longer fight.
So you're going to have the total damage, which is weapon damage plus delta. And if the defender wins the delta comes out negative. So it becomes a plus negative number.
Mm-hmm.
So all that math checks out. Then, after that number is had, you take your armor absorption off of it, and you take your fortitude off of it. So at 5 fortitude, or even at a couple points of fortitude, so 30 being an instant KO death means if you have 1 point of fortitude and they get that perfect attack, you're still alive, but you're unconscious.
Die.
Yeah. Which is nice. I like the idea that the player is never going to get just instantly one-tapped by standard core rules. And I say standard core rules because the GMs can always pull some bullshit. Trust me, I do it all the time. Like sharks underneath shifting things of ice that the players have to dance on.
So fun.
I did that to Rage.
That was an engagement.
There was a bunch of goblins on the surface of the ice and shooting arrows from the tops of the cliffs and stuff. And as they started fighting, one of the goblins fell into the water and they just saw blood coming up. And then they were like, "Oh."
Ruh-roh.
Do we want... Okay, someone else take over. My brain's lagging here. We've agreed on a 0 damage, so we need to look at damage ranges on weapons. What kind of stuff? So let's look at basic projectiles and basic melee. And do some demo numbers.
For let's say melee rank 1 and ranged rank 1 be a maybe 1 damage, or do we want to go higher than that?
It has to be higher than that. If they're only doing 1 damage, then if the person has 1 fortitude, the weapon can't cause any damage.
The weapon can't, but your delta can.
The odds of it are not very good, though. I'd say the bottom rank weapon should be at least 3 or 4 damage. At least. Maybe 5.
No, I think 5 is too much, because that just having a weapon completely negates fortitude.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So I would say probably max of 3 for the lowest rank weapons.
You could start writing those down, by the way, if you want.
I should probably open the link, shouldn't I?
Oh, you want me to do fucking work? Sorry, I'm having my dab, or I do all the work for you. I missed it by 15 minutes, but I'm going to pretend it's still 4:20.
Round. It's fine. Even the rounding doesn't make sense. It's fine. Someone's clock somewhere is slow. That is the answer.
So we've got basic melee weapon damage. This will probably be just give me the list.
Tab dash space. Oh, there you go.
What was I doing? Oh yeah.
What you were doing was fighting with Google Docs.
So we're gonna play test the 3 damage.
Made me
me
cough
an
with
arrow.
smoke in my lungs.
Does not like
laugh.
having arrows.
You made me laugh with smoke in my lungs, which made me cough.
So what that means is that we will have something that can negate half of your fortitude on a melee attack.
Three categories for now. Sound good?
Sure. So then we're saying that the small melee weapon, something akin to a knife or a pointed stick,
Dagger hit.
3 damage, realistic, might not be fun. The medium melee weapon then would be something like a one-handed sword or a baton. Anybody who has never been hit by a baton, don't.
Yeah,
it's
that
very painful.
Fucking hurts. Not really what you want. What the heck? The heck are you doing to me now? Stop it!
List styles. Then do we want to go 3, 4, 5?
I was thinking 3, 5, 7.
No, 7 is too big of a number.
For a big, heavy two-handed weapon?
Yeah, that's too big of a number. Well, no, it's not. We were throwing around the idea of 8 for armor.
Yeah. And 30 is the total damage to take something down. And you're not going to hit every swing. Combat is going to be a little quicker in our system, but that's not a bad thing.
I'm totally down for it being deadly.
The decisions are going to be the important part then, and how well you use your magic, how well you use your strategy to put yourself into a situation where you're not just in a head-on firefight, which is very very inspirational from Shadowrun. I love their combat. I really, really do. As complicated and fucking convoluted as it is, I love it. You don't want a head-on firefight unless you clearly have the advantage, because it's dangerous. You might get shot. Getting shot hurts.
Turns out that's bad.
Keep the inside liquids inside. Don't let them out.
Yeah, don't want to be leaking all over the place.
And welcome, Scornful. I'm sorry we didn't say it. We saw you. We appreciate you. I say we playtest 3, 5, 7.
Let's go 3, 5, 7 for now. Then we'll talk about armor and see if armor is OP.
So we're going to do some sample damage calculations for sanity.
And we'll also need to talk about ranged damage, because I think it might make sense for balance reasons to have range damage work differently.
I agree, and that's why I had basic melee weapon damage specifically. Damage. 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 There we go.
So for ranged, maybe we do 246. Because that leaves us room to wiggle downward if we need to. Wow, that made no sense. That leaves us room to move the damage values downwards if we need to address armor or stat scaling.
Yeah. Do remember that 8 in armor was in regards to magic armor DC.
Yes, and I would like to replicate as much as possible across to melee, because our systems are very complementary so far.
I agree. I'm glad to hear you say that. But I did want to point out that we haven't actually talked about damage, so there's a lot of balancing still to go here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so proposal, flat off, right off the bat, I say... we use, hold on. Brain is braining. It had
Holding.
It slipped it.
Toddle.
No, it's gone. Damn it!
We'll never know.
No. It was a good idea too, but it didn't come out in
void.
time. Yep. That happens all the time. I'm gonna take out this plate for playtest here, because we know it's playtesting. Everything is a playtest value. Yes.
Formatting.
It was bugging me. That's probably why I lost my thought, is because I couldn't stop staring at that black dot in the white line, and my brain just couldn't give it up. This is what makes me a good programmer, by the way, is I am totally like that. Like, if my formatting and everything isn't spot on everywhere on the whole document, it just like jumps out on the page and goes, "You need to correct me," until I do.
So then let's do, so how do we feel about 246 for ranged?
I agree with it, and my thought was, the proposal was damage is based on ammunition for ranged, and distance is based on weapon.
Yes.
But honestly, the more I think about that, the less flexible it is. Because what about like compound bows compared to curved bows and recurve bows?
Yeah, but you're still shooting the same arrow.
Yeah, but it'll actually do more or less damage depending on what you're firing it with, because it's traveling at different speeds, and different bows need, some bows, more strength will give more damage. Other bows, it caps out at a certain point. There's a lot of flexibility in there. I'm not saying we need to encapture it, but let's at least think about it.
Too complicated.
Yeah.
Maybe just start flat, and then if it's fine, if it's fun, then it's fine. But if we find that it's lacking, then we can try and spruce it up later. But that might get a bit much.
Yeah, I'm fine with ending basic. I just wanted to mull it over a little bit in our minds before we just pass it over. Because there is a lot of interesting mechanic in there.
Oh, for sure. For sure. You can do a ton of really cool stuff. But if we're starting to take things like projectile velocity into account, it's gonna get really complicated really fast.
I don't want to actually factor in projectile velocity, but you can simply scale it by, like, having a weapon damage scale off of strength still on ranged.
Yeah, you could. But that's one of the balancing factors for ranged combat, right? Is you have this ability to hit somebody when they can't hit you. And as we know, that is the most powerful weapon.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Full stop.
100%.
So if we've got this ability to hit somebody when they can't hit you, then that needs to be balanced in such a way that there's a reward for going into the risky situation.
No, I 100% agree. And if we want to talk just raw damage from logic side, shooting something and hitting it with a sword causes way more damage.
Depending on the speed of the projectile.
I mean,
the size of the projectile.
The size of the projectile, yeah. Speed of the projectile to a point. After a while, that speed of the projectile just causes a little through and through hole. Which, is still enough to kill something, but on the scale of damage, it's not the same amount of damage that would be caused by hacking into it with a big sword. The hack causes more damage, so the melee should hit harder.
What you're forgetting is the dinner plate-sized holes that are left by a 30-06 round. When it is exiting a body.
I realize. but actually cleaving straight through something with a two-handed sword is still more than that.
No.
You've severed it.
That's not the way shock works. The bullet will liquefy your internal organs.
I realize.
There's a reason why a 50 cal rifle is a war crime to use against personnel.
Depending on the bullet you're using in it, yeah. A lot of the 50 cal bullets they use will actually just leave a solid hole and keep going. They're kind of scary, but more effective against harder things than softer things. Though it'll still kill
the scale of effectiveness starts way up here.
Yes, I realize. 2 shots to take down a helicopter kind of thing. How about... What if I definitely think the projectile should affect the damage. But what if we leave room to have scaling on the ranged weapon and have it ranged weapon plus ammunition? What if the ammunition was just a plus to damage and the scaling is on the weapon?
Had more to do with the accuracy of it. And it just balances out that way. Better ammo just will hit more.
I mean, Rube, it's
still do a consistent amount of damage.
If you hit the engine, it's one shot. Don't aim for the pilot. It's a smaller target. Hit the engine
block.
And it's toast. It'll go straight through the engine block.
But on the note of accuracy, because we don't have a 2-hit roll, we just have our delta, it's effectively the same thing.
Right.
That's true. I like that. Bows that become more accurate will tend to deal more damage. And will still be limited to the upper damage limit by the maximum delta.
Kind of. Because remember, you've got your max delta of 30, but that's not counting weapons.
Yeah.
So if you've got a weapon that deals 7 damage, you now have a max delta of 37.
So what if we make the damage on ranged really, really low? And then give it mostly to their delta to represent marksmanship, improving the quality of the shot.
How would we represent that in the system?
See, if you just give it low damage and let the delta...
The tricky thing is we're using the same roll.
Yep, I know. Whereas the melee damage is a raw plus to damage, right? So the opposite approach would be to adding more rolls, improving the skill rating basically with a better weapon. But with the skill max rate, so with the skill max rating, that means a newbie using the best bow in the world would be rolling like a grandmaster, but have just enough dice, whereas the grandmaster using the same bow against him, while he only gets to keep the same number of dice, is going to be rolling twice as many dice that he gets to keep a pool for.
I like it. I am concerned about having different rules for melee and ranged combat.
I am as well. But I think they're different enough to warrant it. And I'm the one always saying they need to be the same.
So the other option that I was seeing is have both the weapon and the ammunition modify the delta. So the ammunition would have a certain very low value on it, and the weapon would have a certain very low value on it. So if you're using tier 1 weapon and tier 1 ammunition, you would have combined a +2.
That was my first thought, honestly, was exactly that.
Whereas if you were using a tier 1 weapon and, tier 3, 4 ammunition, then you would have either a 4 or a 5 as your add.
Yeah, it just, that way it becomes, well, I guess it's really what it should be, is just trying to get the best bow and best ammo at all time.
And that sort of comes down to the DM and their loot implementation as far as managing to keep it interesting.
Yeah, and you can, since there's already a separate ammo and weapon system, it's very easy to apply range limitations to both of them. And say the smallest one.
Want to, but you could.
It kind of makes sense. The shortest number is your farthest distance that you can shoot. So if you have a bow that's for long distances, but the arrows you're using aren't good for long distances, then you can only shoot as far as the arrow's worth shooting. If you have a arrow good for long distances, but the bow doesn't have power for long distance, then it's only going to go as far as the bow can shoot it.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, thought. What about our basic ammunition types? Should they be our rank 1 or should they be a rank 0? Because we have suggested that your basic ammunition is unlimited.
Yeah, rank 0.
I'd say probably 0 then.
Yeah, that's great. And then you get no plus, and then you can buy things to have a plus for. And then you only have to track your specialty ammo, and you can always fire your weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I always hated having to just keep track of all the arrows, but if it's something special and they're like more expensive, but you only use them maybe like 1 or 2 times in a decent encounter, then I think that's fine. They're kind of more like skills then, or more slot into that special use case.
Yeah, and of course, if you're a hardcore GM and you're like, no, I want my players to track their ammo, go nuts.
Your players may not like it,
yeah,
but if you've got the right group, then you can totally do that.
Yep. Yeah, we're never telling you how to do it. We're just making the core system. Ooh, I need more coffee.
As long as there's a system that tracks it for me, I don't care. If I have to track it myself, it ain't happening. Yep. Not that I don't want to. It's just I lack the neuron for that. I don't have that. What do you mean? I get too excited. I look down. Oh yeah, I should have. Well, like if a GM wants to hold on to my paper for me, or if we use like a tabletop system that does it, sure, whatever. But if it's me, I'm gonna forget.
Yep. I mean, that's a fair argument. You know what? If here's a good thing for all the GMs out there to consider. If your players are forgetting to track things because you're making it too much to track and you really don't want to not track them, you can't penalize them for forgetting. It's going to be unfun. Just be like, oh, you forgot. That sucks. End of it.
Next round, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the next round, you watch them. You know, oh, don't forget. Don't forget. As a GM, I used to say that, don't forget this. Don't forget this. Don't forget this.
Yeah.
Don't forget this. You're the GM. The rules are in your control. It's up to you to make sure everything happens right.
It's why like equipment cards and spell cards and stuff are common now. It's because like I'm not a very mental space person. I don't got a lot of short-term memory. I have short-term memory issues, so it's like it's not a lot of room up there. I'm lacking in the RAM. But if I have physical things, it makes it easier. So if like I had tokens for like arrows, even though it'd be quite a bit, that helps. Or like for mages, you have spell cards that you can use. And you can see which ones you've used. You flip them over so you know how much you've casted today. Like you can still have like a pen and paper system with some other tools to complement that, which is nice.
Yeah, I really like the idea of the spell cards and flipping them over.
They're also just cool to look at, and you feel badass, like you've activated my trap card.
Never played that game, but I do know the reference.
And that is something that is within the space, the design space for this game, is because we said we wanted it to be playable with a handful of dice and a pack of cards. So you could use the card to represent various ammos because they're all tiered. So you could use ace through 5 or whatever.
We haven't actually implemented cards, but it's fun to remember that we can if we want to. I like that it's within our design rules. It's unfortunate that we haven't come up with an organic need for them. And anybody that knows us knows we can't shoehorn it in. It's not our design style. Got to be organic.
Purposeful.
Yeah.
Purposeful.
You'll notice if you look at our systems, every one of our systems touches at least 3 other systems.
I'm sure we'll get there when we get to like equipment and vendors and stuff, maybe, because I could see that being a nice way to seed what certain vendors will have and stuff like that.
Yeah, I like that. We are intolerant of both shoes and horns. That's correct. I'm also intolerant of pants. Unfortunately, when we turn the camera on, we often have to wear them. Welcome, Egg.
It's true.
What are pants?
So let's look at this more. This is where we're at. And I do really like the idea of ranged modifying skill more than damage.
Yeah.
You know what? We could use.
I do like the system.
We could apply the same system to melee and make the damage come more out of your strength and the skill come out of the weapon. I mean, it's more about how hard is it to hit versus how hard do we want them to hit, right? So if we make ranged affect weapon skill and melee affect weapon damage, ranged is going to hit more often, and the higher your skill, the more damage it will cause. Melee, you just have to have enough skill to hit them.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I really like, because you end up with a system where if you want the big damage, you have to take the risk of going melee, but you will be more consistent with range, but deal less damage.
Until you get to the Grandmaster levels of ranged, at which point you'll be able to take people down at range fairly easily. Well, but the Grandmaster levels of melee, once you get them in melee range, they will die.
Since we have a classless system, I can see a bit of stuff bleeding over anyways. Like, I don't think we're just going to have, like, pure melee only. I'm assuming, like, a lot of melee people may have the, like single shot or crossbow, like hand-signed crossbow or, like, a throwable or something. Because even in, like, actual, or most modern, or not modern, but in medieval era warfare, like, most even foot soldiers and footsmen would still have something with ranged, whether it be, like, a throwable, like a javelin, or they'll have access to something. Just so that, like, yeah, sling was very common, especially for Romans. Just so that, like, if you just have one asshole with a bow, you're like, well, shit. What do you do? Like, he keeps, you walk up to him and he keeps walking backwards. He's as fast as I am. Like,
we've had this situation in games before.
So since it's classless, like it might be kind of neat to play into that a little bit, right? And maybe go into a bit more of the utility, where like, range can help with suppression, crowd assist, slowing them down, or pinning them down so that the melee can get up there if they want to.
I definitely love the idea of it being beneficial to go into both. I do. I want that. So how do you think we best achieve that?
It's definitely going to be difficult with playtesting, but it's going to have to be like the tiered kind of system where like specializing in something will unlock, certain kind of abilities, and like the first tier is going to be more of that utility. So like you start off with kind of utility, but before you get into like the larger damage. So that means when you kind of spread out a bit, even though you only have 1 or 2 tiers in something, it unlocks the utility of that aspect, not really necessarily like the large damage doing of it. So you can still use it, even though you're not going to do a lot of damage with it. You're still going to have, value with it.
I have an interesting argument side effect for the ranged being skill and weapon being damage to add to it. Remember, all of the trick shots for ranged are based on succeeding on delta, which means more skill in the ranged makes you far more likely to, or better ranged weapons makes you more likely to succeed on your trick shots and stuff.
Not any more likely than a delta buff, though. Because it is delta.
I guess that's true. Yeah, we're adding a raw to the delta, aren't we? Actually, yeah, the melee is going to be even easier to perform the tricks than the ranged at that point. Which I actually agree with as well. Because the ranged stuff was really fancy.
the ranged stuff, like, I see ranged as consistency.
Yep.
And melee as burst, essentially.
And I think that is what is achieved by it, by doing the same thing. Melee adds a flat damage and ranged adds dice.
Yeah, because the addition of the dice allows you to bring up your base roll, but it doesn't necessarily give you a large delta.
And I don't think that... Sorry.
Whereas adding ammo and weapon modifiers to your delta gives you that bigger delta.
Yeah, and I don't think it's that complicated when you boil it down to weapon adds plus ranged adds dice. Melee plus ranged dice. That's
the only downside is that it breaks us out of our constraint of a Yahtzee set.
How?
Because if you can have a rank 5 weapon, you now need to roll 10 dice.
You can roll 5 dice twice.
Technically not the same probability, but yeah.
I mean, if you're counting each value and counting them as 10 dice, the difference in probability is completely negligible.
As long as you're recording those first 5 rolls.
Yeah, of course. You have to take the values of the first 5 and and use 10 values together to create 10 dice rolls.
Yeah. I do like the greatly increased consistency. I like that a lot. Are we okay with breaking our design space of a single set of Yahtzee dice?
We never actually said a single set of Yahtzee dice. We just said only D6.
But the idea that we've said since the beginning was you can play this with a set of cards in a game of Yahtzee. So we just need to be
you still can
conscious. Play it. We need to be conscious of breaking that design constraint.
You still can
Not
play
saying
it.
We can't do it. Just we need to be aware.
Let's call it a bend. Because you still can play it with a set of Yahtzee dice. You just need to write down 5 numbers once.
Yeah.
That's not a headache or anything. And I think the added... one, the added flexibility is worth it. 2, 99.9% of the people likely to pick this up will have 10d6.
And how common would a 10d6 roll be is my main thought.
Yeah, super rare. That's like the best bow in the game being fired by a Grandmaster bowyer.
But again, edge cases, we do need to account for them.
Yep,
And
absolutely. It will happen.
I think it's fine. Just need to be intentional about it.
Yep. Yep. I mean, if you have like 6 or 7 dice, which is going to be more common than 10, if you roll a couple 1s and 2s, then you could easily remember those 1s and 2s and just re-roll them and see if they're higher. And that would effectively be the exact same thing, considering you only get to keep a pool of 5.
Yeah. Yep, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I really, really like the consistency from increasing the skill. And then your ammunition will be your damage buff.
Yeah, and it'll be like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
I like that a lot, yeah.
Damage.
Yeah, you're going to be you'll probably be in armor most of the time, so you'll be able to take, a few ranged hits, a few arrows and stuff, be in the scuffle, maybe take a melee hit or two before you're fully down if you're a tough tanky guy. If you haven't gone really heavy in on that, you might be in trouble.
The particularly tricky part will be modern or future settings, where the majority is ranged. Because we've given them a system that allows them to be very consistent. So there may be some futzing around with damage numbers that's required for that.
Maybe. We can definitely play with it. You could also look at more of a cover system, so that their consistency is reduced by being in cover.
True.
So that when you're in the open, you just get lit the fuck up. Which is fair. Because when you're in the open and a bunch of people know how to use their guns, you tend to get lit the fuck up.
And I think a full and partial, like a 2-stage cover system, makes sense.
Yep. It's basically the XCOM system at that point. And an XCOM system works fantastically. So I'm okay with it. We've got time. We're only at 5. We're actually really happy with our numbers.
So let's do some sample damage calculations.
Or do we want to look at
see if that works out the way we want it to? Sure, we can do the cover system.
It's all in just stats right now, but we can we'll cut it out and put it around later, yeah.
So full cover, my thought is you just can't hit them. Can't do it. Can't be done.
There's still indirect fire.
Unless you can do one of the crazy bank shots or throw a grenade.
Yeah. And then I think those go straight to their other rules and is accounted for, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think if you're doing a bank shot, it's no longer cover for whatever the hit you're trying to do, right?
Yeah, that's true.
But if they're concealed, they're concealed. As long as we don't have like penetration, but even then penetration would just be like the cover. Basically the breakdown is that the cover is being removed and then the bullet goes through.
Yeah.
Penetration, you say?
If there is. Yeah.
So where it gets interesting is the partial cover. How do we want to represent that?
Well, if it's half covered, do you want to just subtract half from their final value? They'll never hit, basically, at that point, unless they're really good.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's a good representation. What I was thinking was and this is something that we've said we don't particularly like, not expecting this proposition to be accepted, a negative modifier to your delta.
Well, that's kind of what I was just saying, is like a 50% negative modifier. I don't think we're against negative modifiers.
No. Not to your roll, though, to your delta.
I don't know what you mean then.
So your total roll versus their total roll.
Yeah.
A 50% negative modifier to your total roll means you'll basically
I understand.
never hit.
I understand. I don't know why my brain couldn't grasp that concept for a second there, but I totally understand what you're saying now.
Yeah. So, I don't think it would be a 50%. Like, I don't think it should be percentile. I think it should be flat in order to account for people being extremely skilled at something.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, because the better you are, the more capable you should be at overcoming the cover, not the stronger the cover should be against your assault on it. So yes, exactly. That makes sense. So we need to figure out a raw value.
A 2?
I think that's low.
Yeah, it might be, but it would also be extremely frustrating to be a low-level character and have to overcome something more than a 2 when the enemy is in partial cover.
Or encourage you to not fire at them on partial cover and actually change your position and flank them and push them out of cover.
True.
Which is really what you should be doing in that situation, not firing your piddly-ass skill into a covered target and hoping you hit him.
How about...
XCOM player.
How about a 5? Because that can mitigate the delta bonus that you get from the skill all the way up to rank 5. But that also means that your skill can negate the value of the cover.
Yep. Totally in agreement with 5. That's actually the number I had in my head. Because yeah, I do like the idea of having a little bit of an XCOM-y feel to it then, where you're like, he's in cover, I can't hit him while he can shoot at me from here, I need to flank him to remove his cover.
But at the same time, if you're a Grandmaster, you're probably still going to hit.
Yeah. Well, what I would do at that point is I would have my very, very best shooters fire at them while they're in cover to suppress them, and I would have my weaker people for aim come around and flank them while the good shooters keep them suppressed, because there's a chance the good shooter's just going to take him out while he's down there half covered. That was my strategy usually, and it worked very well, because as soon as they got the angle and took away their cover, they were dead from them, or they would run to try to get new cover, and then the really good fighters that had them pinned down would pick them off instantly.
Tactics. Tic-tacs.
I love tic-tacs.
Especially the orange
tactics.
ones.
No, tactics don't sound very good. Oh wait, tactics. Yeah, no, those are good too. I was thinking of actual ticks. I was like, no, those are terrible.
That's awful.
I like Fallout Tactics.
I don't know, in my mind, I was like, a tick like tacks itself to you. I was like, oh no, that's horrible. Like, wait a minute. No, that's how you win a fight.
I'm going to start calling in-game tactics tic-tacs now.
I've ruined it. Good.
I'm going to get better tic-tacs.
So, damage calculations. Let's do some. And we're going to not account for armor on this because we haven't figured out armor yet.
Maybe we should talk about physical armor first then. Maybe we can talk about physical armor while we do this.
That's what I was thinking, because we'll have the framework setup with the damage numbers, and then the armor values will make sense.
Large melee weapon +7 wielded by Grandmaster with weapon 5d6
+5.
+5 hitting
Another
all one
Grandmaster.
roll Grandmaster. 10. 5 + 5. It's 5 ones on the roll, and then
5 for
5
the skill.
for the skill. So that's 32. Ouch, but totally reasonable.
You could be deaded.
You could, but that is the absolute very much worst case scenario, and it's only 2 deaded points.
Is that something we want to account for?
I like the idea of being able to cut somebody in half with a great axe.
Yeah, me too. But like this is an edge case that could come up with a player as a target, and getting one shot sucks. But we haven't accounted for armor yet.
Correct. So if you're wearing proper armor, enough to reduce it by 3 damage even, you can only get unconscious. Unless the GM takes into account stuff like swings at the head and stuff like that, in which points it's the GM's job to figure it out.
Yeah, GM may just want you dead.
There's way more creative ways to want somebody dead than swinging at their head. Show some creativity, GMs. The last time a player pissed me off, I dropped a tree on him in the forest, shoved his head into a puddle, and drowned him to death.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't. I told him to take the campaign more seriously.
I think that makes sense. Let's take a look at low level as our other sort of edge case. So we've got an attacker with a small melee weapon who has 1 rank.
Or no rank? 1 rank.
No rank would be 1d6 plus 0. 1 rank is 2d6 plus 1.
Equals 5. So if the other person only gets to keep 1 die and happens to roll a 1, opponent only keeps 1 die because it's a newbie.
And if they are also a newbie,
they only get to roll 1 die. If they're also a newbie, they only get to keep 1 die no matter what.
Well, so I think we've made an error here.
Okay.
Are we talking about a newbie as a rank 0 or as a rank 1?
Rank 1.
Then it's 2d6.
Right, thank you. Plus 1. Do we want to say without... No, we'll ignore the without a skill portion of it. Those numbers can go ahead and be dirt ass hopeless because you have no idea what you're doing.
Because they should be.
Yeah.
So that brings us up to a 6 minimum.
Opponent gets to keep 2 dice. I think those are fair. They're, like, you can still potentially win.
You would keep 2 die, and if the defender also only has 1 rank in their defense, then they can roll a 3 at minimum. So you would still deal 3 damage on the very minimum.
Yeah. If you both roll mins. I'm okay with those numbers. I mean, all they have to do is roll 1-6 in their die pool to completely negate your min roll. So it's totally reasonable to negate it.
Fine.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we're talking min rolls, right? But the min roll does have a chance to hit and can be fully negated. Which is kind of cool, I think. I kind of like where that's at. You're not hopeless. Like, you're never actually hopeless.
Unless you don't have any ranks in it, in which case there's a 2 in 6 chance that you're going to be completely negated.
Which is fine.
Yeah, which is fine because you don't have any ranks in that thing.
Yeah, if I attack somebody with something that I've never even held before, then I don't expect to get very far. It's like if you've never been in a fight before and some guy comes up to you and starts throwing punches, you're probably going to be in a bad place.
Just for posterity's sake, let's have the equals min roll of 3 on the opponent line there.
Yeah. Okay, so we didn't really talk about the values for a master weapon.
This is pre-damage negation as well.
Yeah, and we didn't really talk about the effects of I'm going into the ranged world now, by the way. We didn't really talk about the effects of, like, the value of the weapon modifying skill rather than damage, how much modifier it gives to the skill for the weapon. I'd imagine it would probably be a 1, 2, 3 as well for the tier of weapon.
Yes, big agree. I don't want there to be a case where you can have somebody with 1 rank in an ability rolling 5 die.
Even if they're rolling that many, they're only keeping 1 still. So it is greatly limiting their ability, but the weapon itself makes sure that they can get the most out of their skill, which I kind of like that interaction. But yeah, it still would only be 4 dice with 1 skill. Nope, 5 dice with 1 skill. Because you get 2 base plus 3.
Clearly, the plus. I don't want a plus 5.
Yeah, no.
Essentially,
no. That's overkill, big time. But the plus 3 with 1 skill, yeah, you get to roll 5 dice and keep 2. So while your end result isn't going to be as fantastic as some people's could be, it's going to make you pretty damn consistent if you have a really good tool. Which, goddamn, that's a good system.
Yeah, we done good.
I'm glad I thought of that. Ranged weapon, plus 3 skill.
And
wielded by
plus 3 damage on the ammunition.
Grandmaster with what?
Don't forget about the ammunition.
Grandmaster in weapon. That makes it more clear to me. Master in weapon. Yeah, I was going to include the ammo right after this part. Oh, yeah, I guess it makes more sense for that calculation to be here. With top tier ammo, plus 3 damage. Wielded by Grandmaster in weapon means 5. Nope. D6. That's 8. No, D6.
We did our base calculation wrong.
5 for your skills.
5 for your skills plus the 1 for your base roll.
Thank you. I always forget about 1 being 2 dice. Yeah. Is this a point of confusion? Is this something we should think about more? Or is it just something people have to get used to?
I think it's something you'll just have to get used to because I hate the idea of rank 1 being so inconsistent with a single d6.
And rank 0 becoming a major issue because you can't actually roll anything. Yeah, I don't see any other way around it. 9d6 plus 8. 5 for the skill, 3 for the ammo. Keep 5 dice plus 8. So the very best ammo with the very best skill actually ends up being a little bit more than a big melee weapon. But then you're also talking firing plus 3 ammo. So there's a cost. Probably a non-negligent cost to every shot.
I'm also looking at our melee weapon calculation because we did do that wrong initially. We did 5d6 plus 5 rather than 6d6 plus 5. So the delta does change here.
37, 42. No, 44.
36, 41, 48 minus 11 is 37.
And this keeps 6 dice, right? Yes. 5 skill, 6 dice. 5 skill, 6 dice. And so the maximum here, and it would be a far more consistent maximum, is 36, 44.
Yeah, melee needs a buff.
33. Oh, yeah.
So I don't think we can nerf ranged. I think ranged is in a really good spot.
I don't think it needs that much of a buff because this is the expensive cost a lot every shot ammo. Rare ammo, right? Melee weapon is free to swing. So let's look at
I was
plus
thinking
3
one damage.
With rank 0 ammo. Plus 0. Wielded by Grandmaster in weapon. 96 plus 5. Keep 6 dice plus 5. And then that's 41. Equals 30.
Minus 11 puts you at 30.
Which is still an perfect max shot. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think ranged is in a really good spot here. Like really good. That worked out really well. But I do think melee needs a buff by 1 or 2 points. Because like a grandmaster with a knife should be able to still one shot.
See, part of me feels like the one shot, well, not feels like, I know for a fact that the one shot effect from knives and small weapons comes from an abundance of skill in it, which would imply a higher scaling of damage from a skill, which is far more complicated than I want to apply directly to the system. But is there a simple effect that can give it that take. Because if we apply the same sort of a buff to the small weapons across, then the big weapons get... Wow. We end up with 2.5 edition fighter thieves. I'm sure you know the 2.5 edition fighter thief fiasco.
Yeah. Okay. Artful Dodger.
Well, fun fact, there's also a rule in 2.5 edition where if you ever take 50 damage in a single hit, you actually have to roll against fortitude or instantly die, no matter how much health you have. So they could actually make enemies roll fortitude saves with the backstabs with two-handed swords.
Yep.
It was dumb. It was dumb. Being able to trigger instant death from physical damages. No.
Do we want to then just tighten the range for melee weapons? Have them start at 5 and go 5, 6, 7?
I think that's okay. Maybe we've undervalued the damage that a dagger can do, because a dagger can actually do a fuck ton of damage.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because if we do our calculation on... Oops. Looking at the wrong cursor. Small melee weapon plus 5 with this new thing wielded by Grandmaster in weapon. 66 plus 5 would equal what?
46.
46. Minus 11 maximum defense.
Minimum defense.
Leaves us... Yeah, minimum defense. Leaves us with 35, which is still a one-shot. And if you're wearing heavy armor, it will save you.
It brings ranged just a touch under melee damage across the board, but is far more consistent. I think ranged is still a little too powerful. I think melee needs more damage at that point.
Well, so now we need to start talking about damage absorption.
Yeah.
Because we've got 5 from fortitude that we can work with.
Mm-hmm.
So that leaves small melee with the ability to one-shot against somebody with rank 5 fortitude. But ranged cannot.
Yeah.
It is not possible.
Yeah, that's without armor. Once we factor in armor, if you have a high fortitude and armor, you cannot be one-shot.
If you've any fortitude and armor, the way it's looking. If you have high fortitude and any armor, you cannot be one-shot.
Yeah. I think it works out. I mean, it may need some fine-tuning, but I don't think there's anything overtly broken at 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, I like 5, 6, 7 more than 3, 5, 7.
Yeah, I'll change it.
Okay.
And I'd like to take a small moment here and discuss with the group that's observing us how we've been doing this by approaching it at our extreme maximum rolls and minimum rolls. And this is a very, very, very good thing to do anytime you're designing a system with numbers. You always have to look at your extremes. It's incredibly important to look at your extremes. If your extremes make sense, everything else should fall in line.
Yeah, and the term that I use a lot is design space. That term represents the area in which the game can happen. It can be creative design space. Do we want to allow for future settings? Do we want to allow for past settings? Is this specifically modern? That sort of stuff, sort of constraining the sort of things that can happen within the game. And then there's system design space, which is where these edge case numbers come in. And these edge case numbers define what is essentially a bounding box around what you can do within the system. So we want to take a look at what our maximums are, what our minimums are. We figure out, do we want the player to be able to one-shot? Yes, no. That's your design decision. That's defining a bounding box around your design space. And then you take a look at your minimums. What do we want to happen when a minimum takes place? Does nothing happen? Does something happen? You got to make your choice. You got to set up your bounding box. And then once you have that box, everything in the middle just sort of falls into place.
A knife fight between two grandmasters could potentially be over very, very quick if one of them makes a mistake. A knife fight between two newbies would just be two people in a ring cutting each other.
Which still ends very quickly.
Not that quickly in our system. I mean, I guess, yeah, 3, 4, 5, 6 hits, that kind of range.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be unconscious. You wouldn't kill the guy, but he'd be unconscious. Probably need medical attention quickly.
But the newbies will also have low fortitude.
Yep.
The newbies will also have low armor. They will also have weak weapons.
Yep.
So...
yeah, it works out. I mean, yeah, like I said, a Grandmaster has the capability to kill somebody in one hit, but the other person has to make a mistake. And if they're fighting a newbie, they're probably not going to kill them in one hit, but they are going to kill them rather quickly, or at least knock them out rather quickly, and the newbie doesn't stand a huge chance. A chance still, because of the dice. It's possible. So I don't think there's any really terrible situations for a player to be in, because everything scales down to the minimum skill. They'll be unlikely to win situations, but they'll never be impossible. And they're not likely to just get one shot by things too strong for them if they pick a fight with the wrong thing. And that gives the GM a lot of space to win the fight without killing them, to allow the play to continue. I think that's an excellent way to handle this.
The one thing that could be a little bit frustrating is if PvP happens and a Grandmaster fights somebody who is not a Grandmaster, like they're rank 2 in it. You would want the feeling of power for the Grandmaster to just be able to smash through and end the fight really quickly, which you can sort of achieve, but not as thoroughly as you might expect, but it is still doable.
Yeah. So do we need a way to multiply damage in some situations? Or are we really happy with the way those all play out? It's not hyper realistic, but gameplay over realism is our catchphrase, basically.
I think this is good for playtesting. And we'll see if it needs additional tweaking then.
Okay. I'm of the same mindset right now. And I like that our numbers went 30, 33, 35, 37 on our maxes with ranged and melee.
Me too.
This is all doable. Yeah. So I guess armor.
This does change our minimums, though.
You want to redo them?
Because this makes our small melee weapon a +5. Which is wielded by a newbie, 2d6 plus 1, which means our minimum roll is 8.
Ah, yes.
And if you do a newbie that gets lucky versus another newbie that gets really unlucky, that would be 13, 18 versus potentially 3.
Yeah. Okay, I like that then. Yeah, okay, that works out really well. Those are the numbers I would want to see there. That makes up the I was just fighting the guy and I accidentally killed him. Which happens all the time, like a bar fight, you know, drunken bar fight.
And somebody hits the ground wrong and suddenly you're a murderer.
Yeah, or, you know, you went to hit him with the bottle and it smashed and ended up stabbing him and severing something that it shouldn't have. And oops, he bled out. That happens.
Also, never hit anybody with a glass bottle. You will crack their skull.
Yeah, it's not a... Just don't hit people.
Yeah. Just don't do it.
Unless the other guy's coming at you first. Then I recommend actually taking some classes on how to deal with people. Couple lessons on how to throw somebody is very, very good.
Take the Yakuza approach and hit a guy with another guy.
Yeah, hit a motherfucker with another motherfucker. That's a way to do it. But yeah, in general, just don't hit people. It's not nice. Do we want to talk about armor for 20 minutes? 15, 20 minutes?
I think we should. And I'm thinking armor values will be a lot smaller than we were initially anticipating because of the fortitude damage reduction. So if we have...
What if armor...
Honestly, what I'm thinking is 1, 2, 3.
What if...
For light, medium, heavy.
What if armor plays more like the ranged weapons and adds to your roll against their delta?
Interesting. So just to think about it from a player perspective, putting on a breastplate would make me better at parrying. No. Because the parry is your weapon skill that you would roll, and this would be more for your defense skill. Yeah, except for that, if we go back to our defensive skills sheet, we had different skills for different stats. Where did that window go? Is it here? No, it is not. Physical skills. Where'd defensive skills go? Combat? Top of combat systems. So our strength defensive skill is parry. Our perception defensive skill is dodge. Our fortitude defensive skill is block. Yeah, you're right. I hadn't even really thought of the skill, the change. It just kind of popped into my head as well, we've already implemented this mechanic. What does this mechanic do? But yeah, you're right. It doesn't do the right things. It was fun to explore, though. We could have it be that a certain type of defensive equipment would give you buffs to certain kinds of defensive actions. Like a breastplate makes you better at blocking. I want to see a breastplate would just make you better at absorbing. That's kind of what it does. It takes the hits for you. Parrying and blocking is both kind of shields, and dodging doesn't really get anything. Though, I mean, we're getting into like really niche cases where like leather armor can make you better at dodging, but it doesn't actually. It just makes you less worse at dodging than plate does. I think it should just be a delta buff. I mean, even a raw plus sense to the delta still
No, I don't think it affects the delta. I think it is just a straight absorption, like fortitude.
Yeah.
It all happens after the delta. The delta happens, and then the delta is reduced by the fortitude in the armor. And then that's this way they do not affect block, dodge, parry, all of that stuff, because it's all determined well before the damage application phase.
I feel like they need to be small numbers, because even wearing light armor, if it's a 1, if you've got max fortitude, you cannot be one shot with a small melee weapon.
What if the armor can only provide absorption up to a point? So if your natural fortitude is already greater than the armor, then it basically becomes no point in wearing it.
My knee jerk is I don't like that.
Yeah, me too.
Because if I want to play a walking tank, I want to play a walking tank.
And you know me, I'm always a dwarven battle tank. That was why you couldn't throw me. How far can I throw him? Does the calculations, about 5 feet. I'm a fat boy.
I'm doing it.
I mean, 5 feet was still far enough to get me to the other side of the enemy, so it still let us flank the enemy, which still gave us advantage on all of our attack rolls. So it was still really effective. And the GM did not like that. I throw him over the enemy. I attack with advantage.
It was very silly.
It worked really well. Yeah. How do I want to absorb the damage?
So let's think about minimums then.
I feel like percentages are like, I like something for
too much math.
I agree it's too much math, but something like scaling or altering, there's got to be a little bit more math in there. I don't know.
Ooh.
There's something missing.
Ooh.
I think Rach had an ooh.
What if it multiplies your fortitude? So you could have a low fortitude with heavy armor and get, say if you had 1 fortitude and heavy armor is a by 3 multiplier, you get 3 damage reduction.
I think it scales too heavily in higher armor and fortitude. You just become like impossible to actually hurt. I was thinking of scaling in the other way so that it does more at low levels and less at high levels. A diminishing return on it is what I was looking for.
Rather than become invulnerable.
Yeah, rather than a multiplicative return, I was looking for a diminishing return. You went exponential, my friend. Well, not exponential, but multiplicative is big enough. Is that I didn't think it would be. This is bad. It was bad. It was too much. It's too much. I like where you're going, though. I appreciate the effort.
It would be geometric rate.
There we go. That's the word.
Okay, so what if we think about it the other way around then? How will we make it work so that a low level with low level armor gets a small buff?
Well, it's more if I'm getting
high level.
If I'm getting hit for 30, I still want to be able to absorb like 10 or 15 of it if I'm wearing really heavy armor. But if I'm absorbing 10 or 15, then a lot of people are just never going to be able to hurt me. So it has to be able to get through the armor still.
And the number 8, I think, works really well for that.
What if it reduces...
But that leaves us with heavy armor at 3.
What if it reduces above a certain point? So like, if you take low damage, you're going to take it. But then if you're taking big hits, it buffers it off.
Yeah, it caps the damage.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. So heavy armor would cap damage at number.
Yeah.
Medium armor would cap damage at bigger number. And then...
But do we still want, like, 1 damage dagger to hit the heavy armor guy for 1 damage? I mean, we could say it chinked the armor.
There should absolutely be damage going through, in my opinion.
I agree. Okay. And I think it makes it a more like, you're not just an invulnerable tank, but you're going to get chipped away slowly. It makes it manageable. You won't be one shot. It makes it manageable, but it doesn't make you invincible. You have to be considering your battle state, but it does let you sit in battle for longer and control the flow of things.
So because our unconscious level is 20, light armor caps at 20. You can still be knocked unconscious, but you can't be straight up one shot.
So we're thinking something like 2010-5? I think heavy armor might need to be... Well, 2010-5 isn't...
I think 5 is too much, honestly. 2015-10 is more what I was thinking.
Okay, does it cap then subtract fortitude? Or subtract fortitude then cap?
Cap, then subtract fortitude.
Okay, that gives us a much more manageable thing, and then, yeah, maybe 8. Yeah, 8 for heavy armor. 8 cap.
That means the most damage you're ever going to take is 3.
As a Grandmaster, yeah. Well, I guess, so what, 10? So you're going to take 5 at most, then?
Which
you can take 4 hits, 4 maximum. That's not bad, I guess. And most of your hits are probably going to be 1, 2, 3 range.
Yeah.
So 2015-10?
That was my thought.
I think that actually works.
Testable, at least.
I think that actually, I kind of really like that now. I think that actually really works. Caps maximum damage taken before fortitude reduction is applied. I've never heard of this system before. I think this is wholly the first time I've heard of armor applied this way.
I think you might be right. And this way, is it still possible to knock somebody unconscious? No. You will not be able to unconscious people because your light armor will cap to 20. You will probably have 1 fortitude.
If you don't have 1 point of fortitude, you can just be knocked out even in light armor. But that's on you.
I want to bump light armor, medium armor, and heavy armor all by 1. I want light armor to be 21, medium 16, heavy 11. Take more than 1 point in fortitude.
What do you mean? Take more than 1 point in fortitude?
So if you have light armor on and 1 fortitude, you should still be able to be knocked unconscious.
In a single hit?
In a single hit. In the perfect hit. Somebody, just the stars all align. You get schmucked in the side of the head. You go down. Unless you've got 2 fortitude, then you're fine.
But it can still happen with 0 fortitude, and 0 fortitude is the base. You don't start with 1, you start with 0.
True.
So if you haven't put anything into fortitude, you can still get 1 tapped in light armor. Which I think is what you wanted.
Yes, that's a good point. You don't start at 1, you start at 0.
Yeah. Which makes these numbers round and super easy to remember and on fucking point for what we wanted. Why does everything in this game just come together?
Because we built a good bounding box.
Why does everything just work? I think it's a little bit, we have a little bit of experience at designing games too, but so we've got armor, we've got weapons, we've got ranged and melee, we've got magic armor, we've got health, we've got stats, we've got skills. We need to design character creation. We need to make a setting and test the game.
Almost playtest time.
That's incredible. And we managed to stop at like 6 p.m.
Yeah.
That's also incredible. Hey, Kuro, how you doing? How long you been lurking? So we've got a couple, like 5-10 minutes. I want to hear, what do people think of what we've come up with so far? Has anybody actually been paying attention? I don't really care if you haven't been, because I've just been having fun. But if you have been,
just background noise, then that's sweet.
if you have been, not long, sadly. No worries. We had a really productive session. We figured out armor. We figured out melee. We figured out ranged. We figured out damage calculation. We figured out damage reduction. Yeah, that was a lot, actually, for 2 hours. Will you be doing a tabletop sim release or some form of paper prototype? So if you've been paying attention to the bot spam, you can get all of the documents that we have been working on right now. You can download them and play with them yourself right now. It's totally open sourced. We're just saying, please do what you want with it. We're going to continue refining it. And after we're done, if people love it, we may even design a few settings for it with specific items and whatnot.
Yeah, that's totally fair, Egg. You want to see it played before you come up with any firm conclusions.
We're in the same mind.
I was just about to say, that's sort of where I am right now. I think we're ready once we do character creation for our first playtest, and then we'll know if we're totally out to lunch.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we're out to lunch. It seems sane. Like you said, no vehemently disagreeing with the design decisions. That's where I'm at too. Everything seems to make sense. So we'll have to play it and find the shortcomings, because you know what? There are some. We've missed things.
There will be.
Yep. I don't know, but don't throw them too hard. Thank you for the bits. Thank you so much for the bits. Ding.
Ding.
Oh, dinner ding. Dinner's on.
Dinger.
I got beef dip for dinner today. Honk. Honk. Yeah. It's 2 times XP weekend still, so is that what we're doing after dinner?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So if you want to come pew-pew with us. Hey, Kuro, you don't play a lot. Ooh, Indian. I love good Indian. You guys got real good Indian over there, too. They have truly good Indian over there. Indian people have been in the UK for longer than white people have been in Canada. That's just facts. Pure facts. Chicken korma sounds delicious. There's the link. Thank you, bot. Go ahead and grab that link and go ahead and check through everything we have. I'm hoping that this catches on and we design a good system. I'm hoping. That's the dream, right? UK for foreign foods is amazing. So is Vancouver.
Maybe we do another session of this next week. Work on character creation. And then the week after we can playtest it.
What else do we have to talk about? I don't think I'm going to be finishing Like a Dragon anytime soon. In order to need to do the review for it. And I've been...
Do we have anything else banked to review?
Yes. There's one other with it already ready to go. What was the last game I played? Oh, Def Jam.
That was a video game.
I mostly had fun. It was a lot of fun whenever it let me have fun. But every once in a while, the game just went, no more fun. And that was a thing. Are we doing group Valheim soon? We absolutely do want to do more Valheim. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We want to get into the mountains and check out the mountain caves. And we're not sure if we're going to do the same server or a new server, I guess, to check out the mountain caves, are we?
It could be either. I mean, my server's still running.
And the server is still running, but we also love buildings.
Yeah, but we haven't finished that building that was there, so it'll be. I mean, it's not hard for me to run concurrent servers. Yeah, Kuro, I'm done school on the 20th, and then I'm basically going to be a lot more free time. So I'm going to be down playing stuff, because I need to take notes on it anyways. I'll be playing Valheim again, as well as some Satisfactory, and probably some Factorio.
I will jump in
so
for
you
some
don't want to
Factorio.
have time. I have free time, so I'm getting rid of it all.
But
I have a budget of time, I guess, not free time.
yeah, when it comes to Factorio, if you want to do a multiplayer map, I'll definitely jump in and play some. And Rage has never done Factorio yet, so maybe he'll jump in and join too finally.
Maybe. I did buy
a fellow
it when it
person
released.
who gets in the vehicles and just goes and kills shit while people that have the ability to focus build some stuff. I'm like, this looks complicated. I'm gonna take some guns. I'm gonna hop in the car. I'll be back later. I'm gonna go shoot some shit.
Yeah, I have a few hundred hours in Factorio. Few hundred hours. Quite enjoy it. I've actually done Factorio so much that I just stopped playing it because I've kind of played it to death for my single player fun. You know, I've only got like 2 or 3 achievements that I haven't done in the game, and there's a lot. I've done the achievement where you get off of the planet only manually building 1,000 items or less. That was fun. Just factories for everything. Never not factory. Oh, I need a bolt. Build a factory for it. Can't wait for the expansion. The game I am most hyped for in that realm of existence is Kerbal Space Program 2.
Yay, KSP2.
Super hyped for that. I hope it actually gets finished one day. I even want to build a launch station for it and like play the fuck out of it. Because I love Space Program. I do. I love it so much. And I haven't played Satisfactory yet. I really want to check it out, but I really don't want to burn myself out on it before it hits 1.0. Because that's what I did with Factorio. And after it hit 1.0, I just couldn't play it so much anymore. Yep. Oh, no, I absolutely had factory making factories for my Factorio run, because I couldn't make the factories to make the other items myself either.
You can make a you can have Factorio that makes Factorio, since it is Turing complete in a way, but that would be brutal. Unless we want to make Doom in Factorio.
Yeah, well, it's already been done. I'd rather do something that hasn't been done.
Make Mood.
We could make Minecraft in Factorio and then create Doom in Minecraft running in Factorio.
Simpsons did it. I was just going to say, if we're worried about doing things that haven't been done, then we're a losing battle, because Simpsons did it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. How can you fight against a 30-year catalog? Simpsons have been doing it for a long time. Anyway, that wraps up our time. We'll be back with Pew Pew, because it is 2XP weekend, and we've been loving the gun handling, and we just like that game. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening to us ramble. I hope we made some good background noise. Make a Rust compiler in Factorio, then use it to compile Minecraft. Yeah! No. All right. Thank you. Do come back later. We will be back. But until that time, I'm Deus.
I'm Rage.
And I'm Pseudo.
May all your shots be headshots.